I'm Jenny Dietrich, and I have with me the Steve.
Hello, then.
Last night, Chris, I call him, told me to take my weapons with me and not have it. Could I not carry a bazooka?
The stingers are too big. They won't fit in the feet.
Cool. All right. So you are here. You did a workshop yesterday.
Yeah. Topic of artificial intelligence and machine learning. The joke, however, being that if it's code AI, because it's that they're doing most of the time. We're doing machine learning.
Same thing.
They're almost the same thing. AI is a big umbrella term that means teaching machines to think like humans, to perform tasks that require human intelligence. So if you're watching on this camera and you can see this, the words coming out of my mouth and it's not gibberish, then you're using language processing, right? And these are tasks that we can teach machines. That's all AI. But in the context of content marketing, machine learning is about machines that write their own software based on data we give it. So you give it 1,000 blog posts or 1,000,000 tweets or whatever, and a machine learns to recognize, okay, this is what a good tweet is or a good blog post is, and then when you give it new ones, it can either say like, yes, that's a good one, no, that's a bad one, or in the more advanced cases, let me my own based on what you've taught me how to do. So that's the difference. Machine learning is a subset of AI.
Okay, I have very many questions after that.
Yes.
So the first thing is, if a machine is learning the best tweet or the best blog post or best Facebook post, whatever it happens to be, doesn't it all become the same?
No, it doesn't become all the same, because what would happen if you did this with a person, you would pick up just that person's nuances and such. But when you train a machine on a massive corpus of everybody's knowledge, you're drawing from as much variety as there are people. So your tweets would be different from my tweets, would be different from so on and so forth. Now you can teach nuances. I did a project recently with a well-known politician's tweets who's known for not great grammar and bizarre words, and I fed it into.
Wonder who that would be.
I fed it into the machine, and I said, okay, I want you to replicate this tone, but the topic is I want you to declare war on North Korea, and it came up with stylistic.
This is Saturday Night Entertainment, by the way.
It came with stylistic interpretations of that, coherent, made sense, was exactly the tone. Like, these are very bad people, and there you go. Asians are the cause of all our problems. And so you can pick up styles and nuances, but when you're training on the big stuff, you're training with the total scope of what humans could do, and so you're not going to get any less variety than if you're having a human do it.
So because we're at Content Marketing World, I think it's important to talk about how all of this is going to affect our jobs. And one of the things I've been saying all along is, you know where this is going, robots will never be as creative as we are. So we are safe from that perspective, and you have proven me wrong, which is very uncomfortable. But talk about that, and talk about, they can be creative, but it's also creating some inspiration for us humans.
So AI will not take jobs, because a job, this is from the Brookings Institute, a job is a collection of tasks. Machines can absolutely take tasks, right? And so your role as a marketer will evolve from being the first violin to being the conductor of the orchestra. You will work with the machines, they will do the heavy lifting, and then you will inspect the output and say, yes, that is a great blog post, or yes, that is a great podcast, or no, that's not quite what we had in mind. So you will need fewer people in total to do jobs, but the jobs themselves will change, they will not go away. Like the example of the orchestra, you will still need a conductor, but with every orchestra, there's only one conductor. So you have to be, as a marketer, as someone who's in your career, wherever you are in your career, you have to be the best at your job so that you become the first in line for the conductor of the orchestra. So that's one aspect of this, and that's the part that fills a lot of people with a lot of fear.
Sure.
The flip side is that it's going to unleash a tremendous amount of creativity, because I can't play any musical instruments, right? I'm inept at it. I could roll my face across the piano keys.
But you are a ninja, so.
Yes. I can't paint especially well either. It's just not my thing. But there are now tools like NVIDIA's Gauguin, which is their generative adversarial network, where you do this little Microsoft Paint style painting, and it renders a photorealistic interpretation of your scrawling as a painting in the style of Van Gogh or Matisse or whatever. And so now I can't paint, but the machine can paint for me. So the only limit to what I can create is my ambition.
Sure.
I can't compose
Sure.
a symphony. A machine can. If I can say to the machine, I want it to be in this key, I want it to be in this pace, I want it to be able this long, I want it to be kind of like this style. And it will compose music and words and things. And how many times have you heard in your life, oh, you should write a book, right? And a whole bunch of people have heard this. And like,
Yeah.
if you can outline and frame up what the book is about, you can have the machines fill in the gaps in that and write a substantial part of the book for you. And so this is the promise of AI and the part that people have a difficult time imagining. Yes, older jobs are going to contract, but now there'll be a massive new market of things that are limited only by your ambition as a human to create, to make things that have not been done before, that are inspired by you, but you don't need to have the talent to do it. Talent's not the issue anymore. Now it is only your ambition, and that's pretty exciting.
It is exciting. It's also really scary. I have a 6-year-old, and one of the things that they are doing in school right now is they're teaching them social skills and life skills because they don't know how to prepare them for the future because what they will go out and do in the world doesn't yet exist. And I think that's a perfect example of what you're talking about here.
It is, but I like the Jeff Bezos rule, which is focus on what doesn't change, right? Yes, the technology changes, how we interface changes, but when you think about like your kids or your audience or your customers, what doesn't change? People want things to be better, faster, and cheaper, right?
Yep.
That's never going to
Yep.
change.
Yep.
That's Amazon's entire premise. How can we make things better, faster, and cheaper? When we think about our jobs, what do we want? We want to be happier with what we do. When we think about relationships that we're in with other human beings, we want to be more fulfilled in those relationships. Those things don't change. Machines will not change that. How we interact with each other may change. Like we text now. We didn't text 20 years ago. But our desire to communicate with other people has not changed. That will not change. So when you're talking about preparing for the future, focus on what doesn't change, understanding the human condition, and then how can you use these tools to help you understand people better, faster, and cheaper.
So if I'm trying to be, or I want to be the best person and I want to be the conductor of the orchestra, I imagine that that's significantly easier, maybe I'm wrong, for somebody with experience. A chief marketing officer is already sort of orchestrating, but they're orchestrating humans instead of robots. How does somebody who's just fresh out of college or has 5 or 10 years of experience get to that level immediately?
Again, that goes back to what are sort of the ambitions that you have? What are the things that you can think of that based on your life experience? We know the human brain is functionally a massively parallel computer. It's very slow compared to silicon, but it runs in massively parallel. It can do trillions of operations per second in ways that machines can't, which also means that we pull in data from all sorts of different sources, and every person's computer is different because we all have different upbringings, we have different conditions we've grown up in,
right.
And so everyone's going to have a different perspective. The number one thing that you can do to prepare is to give yourself many more inputs. So if you are, for example, living in suburban Chicago, when was the last time you went to an Ethiopian restaurant? When was the last time you went to a museum of art that was from Southeast Asia? When was the last time that you went to a black comedy show? All these inputs are different inputs. The real danger for you as a human is if you only surround yourself with what you like and what you know, you're not getting new data. You're retraining yourself on the same data, and then yes, you are limited by that. If you expand yourself to the diversity of human experience, you can say, now I have much more data. When you go to hire people, you should be absolutely looking for people who look and sound and think nothing like you, because those are the people who are going to bring different perspectives and force you to say, okay, did we consider this when we were doing our marketing? At the show, I don't have my tag on me, they have little pronoun tags for the first time. And I think that's fantastic, not just because of inclusiveness and diversity as a goal into itself, but because it invites people to say, different ways of thinking are welcome here, and that level of diversity is absolutely essential in a world where the machines can replicate what already exists.
Whew. So where can people go to find you and not be so scared about their future changing?
See a therapist.
Right, we may all need that.
No, you can find me and the work that I do at trustinsights.ai, and then you can find my personal stuff at ChristopherSpenn.com.
Well, Christopher S. Penn, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. I am Jenny Dietrich. I am here with Pam Didner.
Hello.
We are actually preparing right now about what we're going to talk about.
I know, impromptu. We can do this. Hashtag can do.
So we are at Content Marketing World. You did a workshop yesterday, sales enablement. Is that?
Yes,
yeah?
I did.
So tell us about it.
All right. So the workshop is really about how marketers can better to support their sales team.
Which is very much needed.
Very important.
Yes.
Right. A lot of time we focus on the top of the funnel.
Yep.
The demand gen, which is from drive the outbound to inbound traffic. From there, you do a lot of nurturing, and then say you qualify the leads and you pass that to the sales. From my perspective, that there are so many ways that we can support our sales team. In addition to demand gen, in addition to the inbound traffic conversions. And one of the examples I was talking about is, for example, a whiskey company, and they try to close a deal with several, say, liquor stores and a supermarket because they want to increase the shelf space.
Sure.
The more shelf space that you have in the retail outlets, that increase the visibility. Hopefully by doing that, you actually generate more revenue. Like one way to actually increase that visibility is to have a shelf space. And of course, the supermarkets and the liquor stores like, well, what can you do for me? And the sales team said, let me talk to my marketing team, I'll get back to you. No, I'm kidding. What they did is they come up with an idea. They use some of the social media marketing budget from the marketing side, and they do a pay Facebook ads.
Yep.
So they drive the traffic within like the 25 miles radius of that specific location. They do free tasting, and alone they drive the traffic to the liquor stores and the supermarket. So it's a combination of leveraging sales and also marketing to close a deal.
Love it. So let's go back to something that you said about handing the leads to sales and saying, okay, there you go. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we have because they never follow up.
Yeah.
And then we get frustrated because of the leads that we've created. So how can we enable the marketing qualified lead to become something that they own in turn convert them into a customer?
You know, that's actually a great question. I know that many companies have the challenge in terms of that passing the leads to a sales side and they don't follow up. And of course, as a marketer, you need to find out what are some of the possible causes that the salespeople are not following up, right? Is it because they are understaffed? Or the lead is not high quality based on the experience
or
of
not
getting
their
the lead, or
yeah.
not their leads, not their ideal customers. So you need to find out what the reasons are and then proactively work with them to determine what are some of the causes. And obviously both sides need to change their behavior.
Sure.
But it's very hard.
It is.
We all know to get salespeople to change their behavior, right? I mean, it's very hard.
It is very hard, yes.
A lot of time what I told the marketers sometimes is, can we see what we can do within our boundary to change our behavior? For example, one thing I said is I usually use Lead Genius as an example. They first of all, they work with their sales team, identify ideal customer profile, ICP. They know exactly what the sales teams are looking for. Certain type of industry, certain type of demographic, certain type of title, for example. And then when there's outbound driving the inbound traffic, right? So say people click on certain type of content, and a lot of time people will say, oh, you know what? You click on 5 pieces of content, you reach the lead scoring about 75. Oh, you know what? You are MQL. But really? Is that it?
Yeah.
So they made it incredibly clear that that the MQL is one specific action that a prospect needs to do on their website. It's request for demo. If somebody say request for demo, they call a hand raiser. All of a sudden, you know, there's a chance they want to move down to a next funnel. Right? And now, once they got that specific request, the marketers will try to qualify that with ICP. They will try to match that person, do a little research, try to understand, does that align with ICP? If they raise their hand and align with ICP, then they pass that to the sales team. All of a sudden, it's high quality, and then you can say to your sales team, match what you have, what you share with me, and they raise their hands.
And then please buy me a drink because I just gave you a qualified lead.
Exactly. Well said, Jeannie. Well said. Okay, salespeople, remember that.
we can be bribed. So you're also speaking tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's a shorter, it's not a 3-hour workshop.
Yes.
What's what do you hope that people will come away with after attending your session?
For tomorrow's session, I think the biggest takeaway is for marketers like us, we need to understand our sales team better. We need to understand their sales stages, right? A lot of time when I was a marketer supporting my direct sales force, we call them the field guys, when I supported them, I understand my job, I understand my content, and sometimes I will shuffle my content to them. And I made a mistake, and I want to share with you, and that was not good. And what I didn't do is I didn't understand their sales stages. What I should have done is map my content to their sales stages to show them for different sales stages, these are some of the suggested content that they can use.
Love it.
I didn't do that. Shame on Pam. But I learned.
That's how we learn.
Exactly.
That is how we learn.
And another thing is, you know how we create buyer's persona to understand our audience? Have we ever thought about it? Create a salesperson persona.
For your sales team.
For my sales
Love
team.
it.
Can I write something to say, this is how I understand my sales team? Right?
Love that.
If you can write that like an essay, you can actually find ways to support them better.
She's kind of a riot.
I am a riot. I'm sorry. Did I stress you out? My apologies. Big time.
All right, so I was stalking you on Twitter last night in real full preparation for this. And I mean, last night.
Jeannie actually prepared for the interview. And then I came here with, I don't know, nothing.
That's not true.
You know what?
You came with some jokes.
Thank you.
Came with some jokes. And I noticed that for the workshop attendees, you gave away a template, and
I do.
Yeah. Is that something that we could all get by visiting your website, or was it only for workshop attendees?
You know what? Now Jeannie asked. Okay, just because it's Jeannie, all right? For this chatter, because Jeannie is special. If you send me an email, I send the templates to you.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, really.
Can we easily find your email address?
Social media channel, you can follow me and DM me on Twitter. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can go to my website, pamdinner.com, just click on contact, and just basically say, send me template.
Ginny
I will
said.
say, yeah,
Ginny said.
and you say, Jeannie said, send me template. And I was like, aye, Captain, roger that.
Beautiful. Well, I'm going to do it because my marketing team could use some of your sales enablement.
No, that's not true.
It
You
is.
are doing pretty well.
Yeah.
I check out your stuff too.
There's some challenges, but
yeah, we kind of virtual stalk each other.
Pam, it's such a pleasure to have you. It's
Same
so
here.
good to see you. And I will say at the speaker party last night, she came up to me and said, "I'm sorry I didn't answer your email, but you're a PR person. You can make some stuff up, right?"
Yeah,
so there you
I
go.
know, right there. So here we go.
Thank you. It's
Thanks
very
a
good
lot.
to see you.
The pleasure is mine.
Welcome back to Chatter at Content Marketing World. I am Jenny Dietrich, and now I have the esteemed John Hall with me.
That's very nice of you to say.
How are you?
Doing well, doing well. It's been an exciting year.
Yeah, I would say so. New baby, business, startup, like all sorts of things going on.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff. It's keeping us busy.
Good. So you and I met officially in these very halls several years ago.
We did.
When Andy Crestodina said, how do the two of you not know each other?
Andy is a very nice connector.
He's a very nice connector, that is true. And then I noticed that you were guest blogging on other people's blogs and not ours. So I said, you know, we could use some of your really great content as well.
Yeah, happy to. It's a good site, so why not?
Thank you. So, calendar.com.
Yep.
Tell us.
It's been an exciting time. Like really, like you kind of mentioned, you know, we've had a lot happen in the last year. I exited out of Influence & Co. and one of the things that we looked at, I mean, and it was super amicable. Kelsey's running it now, and so it was a great kind of exit for me. But what's most exciting is that it gets you reflecting on what's important in your life and what you should do. And a lot of people struggle, whether it's content marketers here or just in general, people are like, what am I meant to do, or what kind of difference in the world can I make? And so I sat down and actually looked at things that I was passionate about. One of them was time and how we spend it.
Yep.
I became a lot happier as a person when I made better use of my time, whether it's balance with family and friends, or just being around people that I cared about and enjoyed being around, and it all is how we manage our time. So ended up looking into developing a time management software and scheduling system where my business partner and I, we saw a big opening with Google, Microsoft, Apple over on one side, and then you have like these 20 or 30 tools on the other, and we were like, you know, why don't we be this kind of in between that actually helps communicate between the big three that people kind of struggle with communicating across, in addition to bringing some of the tools we think are the most valuable and features that are going to make it so there's one place that you go for your calendar. And ended up acquiring the domain calendar.com. And
yeah, I saw that and was like, how did he do that?
I mean, really it comes down to relationships and helping people. I mean, the guy who owned it was somebody who was really connected in the domain space, and my business partner helped him out in a few ways. And I think that I've just learned that business is not just about money, and it's not about, you know, I don't know, it's not about greed always, it's about forming connections, and this guy, I think, believed in what we could do, and so it made it for a good kind of opportunity for us.
That's so funny, because when I was preparing questions, one of them was, how the heck did you get calendar.com?
I mean,
that's pretty impressive.
Well, my business, I'd love to take credit for that specifically. My business partner is amazing at helping people and forming really good relationships, and then he just made a relationship with the right person, and yeah, made it a really good deal that allowed us to gain control and access without you know, putting ourselves in a bad position where a lot of startups do. They spend a lot too much money over big things like that, but we structured something that was really beneficial for both parties.
Amazing. So are you sitting in between the calendar app and a scheduling app?
So the way we kind of look at it is that you obviously have like Google, Microsoft, Apple that are used by the majority of people, but problem is, like, my wife was on like Apple Calendar, I was on like Google, or Google, my business partner's on Outlook, and you don't have a central place where those are actually communicating together. And then at the same time, I had big issues, like, for example, I travel a lot, so a lot of times I'm on the, you know, I'm on in an Uber or Lyft going somewhere, and I can't take notes down. So it's like, I'll have 5 of those calls, and the next thing you know, what happened on my first one, I happened on my second. So like our tool will actually call in and record it, transcribe it, store it in the invite. And so you can always look back and be like, oh, here's what happened during that call. And so I think some of these needs we just looked at and we said, okay, so we want to be a really good calendar resource for these big players. Like, we don't want to go and take, you know, substitute them. They're big players. We want to play and communicate across it. But we do want to bring the features that we think that people find most valuable, and that's what we've been building out, and it's just worked out well, where at first we were like 100 signups a month, where it's like, okay, things are trickling in. Now, this last month we did 4,000. So and that's just in 6 months.
Good for you.
It's been exciting.
That's great. So from a content marketing perspective, I mean, time efficiencies, obviously, but what else, what are some of the other benefits of
Yeah, I mean, so what I'm talking about on Thursday, it's kind of funny how this came about because it's this term that we've started calling, it's our ROIT. So it's a return on investment of our time. And content marketers specifically, and marketers just in general, they're very limited on time and resources.
Yes.
A lot of times a content person's supposed to be writing, it's supposed to be editing, supposed to be doing social. I was just talking to someone who legitimately has like 6 different positions, and you're like, how do you get anything done? And they're like, I don't really.
Right.
And so I think that the more you are actually self-aware of your time, how you spend it, who you spend it with, then you can actually be a lot more, you can perform a lot better at your job, because like something I'm talking about tomorrow, like time-intensive tasks. Like somebody might say, hey, I'm signing up for a podcast. Now, I like podcasts, but the time that it takes to invest in a podcast is significant.
Right.
So you have to know, that in comparison to the opportunity cost of my time doing something that's, let's say, less time intensive, like let's say writing a blog post and posting it on, your site, and then also getting it distributed.
Yep.
Maybe you're outsourcing some of that, where you have to look at it and say, wow, these tasks are not time intensive, so I have to value those. And a lot of times we just value budget and we value dollars. And I think what I'm going to try to do, at least tomorrow, is I'm going to try and look at the data that we've got from Calendar and say, hey, like guys, like honestly, you can spend your time a lot more valuable, where you can spend it on different things and think about your time first and not just the money. And I think that's a lot of times content marketers aren't able to do that because they're letting budget drive performance rather than actually doing what's best for their time and the company. And hopefully I can reach some senior people so that they can kind of be better about how they manage their staff.
So does it also allow you to look at your data, your individual data, and make it easier for you to say no to the things that you should say no to?
Yeah, it's one of my slides. If you come to it tomorrow, you'll see it's. I kind of make a joke out of it, but I ended up tracking, or it tracks as analytics, and it says you're spending this much time with this person, this much time with this person, this much time with this person.
Interesting.
And I put as a joke. This isn't like true, but it's a funny example. But I'll put like Jay Baer, Andrew Davis, and some of the people, and I'll be like, why am I spending time with these jokers? And like Ann Handley's at the bottom, and I'm like, and I should be spending more time with Ann.
Right.
And so, but as funny as it is, like, unless you're somewhat self-aware of how you're spending your time, we gravitate towards things we like instead of what's most valuable.
Yeah.
But when I actually looked at my time and I saw the 5 people I spend the most time with, I was like, why? Like that actually is like just because I enjoy being, but they have no bearing on my performance. They have no like contributions to that. It's just people I like being around. And unfortunately, in business and as a marketer, we can't just think of what we like. We have to think about what's most valuable to the company, what's going to bring the best out of us, what's going to give us as much output as possible for the time that's invested in it. And that's something where I'm starting to understand that a lot more than ever. And I realized like the last 10 years of my life, I could have been so much more productive. I could have spent a lot more time with my family and kids. I could have done a lot of things better. And so I want to kind of share that with others and kind of, I mean, if we can create a tool that helps people be a little more self-aware of that, it's a huge win.
If I'm a junior or mid-level marketer and I'm sitting in your session tomorrow, what tips do you have for me when I don't really control my tasks?
I think that like from the standpoint of like, a lot of people feel like they don't have control, when in reality, they do have more control than they think. Bosses and leaders and managers just want to see results. So the more you can work on yourself and actually show and lead by example, because in reality, even like crappy managers, if they see somebody performing and having a lot of output, they're going to listen to that person a little more in most cases. And those are the people that raise the kind of corporate ladder. And so I would say is that don't let a barrier like a crappy manager prevent you from being as productive as you can be with your time, with your resources. A lot of times you won't think that you have resources to form the relationships, but I'll give an example of a relationship with LinkedIn started really early because one of their entry-level people, all I simply did was write a letter, or it was an email that said, hey, to some senior executives at LinkedIn, I said, hey, I really valued my experience with this person. They were great, had an awesome experience. If you have people like this, your LinkedIn's gonna, I mean, this was years ago, LinkedIn was already doing well, but I gave that feedback. That's simply just taking the time to write feedback to reward somebody for doing great work.
Right.
It seems simple and nice and very basic, but in reality, when it came to down the road, when LinkedIn was doing a new project, I was one of the names to call because this woman remembered me. And it got us involved in one of their bigger products with their head of product and things like that. And so that helped us create opportunities that we would have never had,
Right.
and a huge output from me. So like as simple as it is, a middle person might be like, well, what can I do? What can I do to increase relationships? I'm not nobody, I'm like this. That's not true. In reality is that if you do certain things, you can put yourself in a position to create and generate opportunities that nobody else would have been able to. The idea that LinkedIn picked a firm in Columbia, Missouri to work with in a way is crazy.
It's awesome though.
But you can do these slight changes in the habits of how you treat relationships, how you spend your time, and these opportunities will come.
So calendar.com, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. Is there a free trial?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that's where people should go and check it out.
Yeah, check it out. And like honestly, my ask is just be a user and give feedback. Like this at this point, like my business partner, it's like it's got to do well, but like we're passionate about actually like. If we can truly help a mass amount of people save their time, their energy, like if somebody is working 50 hours or 60 hours a week, we can take them to 40.
That's amazing.
It's amazing, because then that's 10, 20 extra hours they can spend with their family, their friends.
Right.
And I think at this point, at a certain point in everyone's life, they need to look at how they can contribute back to society in different ways. And this was just one where like, I thought about joining the nonprofit, doing different things like this, but I like the profit world, but this is a way where it's like, okay, if we can truly nail this thing down, we can actually, I think, make a big difference in a lot of people's lives. So.
Well, John Hall, thank you so much for being here. It's so good to see you. Write some content for us.
All right, thank you for having me.